And how?
Yeah.
You want me to tell who the midwife was?
Yeah. Sure, you can do all that. Camera's rolling.
Oh, it is. Oh. My name is Alin Gendreau. Is that how I'm supposed?
Can you spell Alin Gendreau?
Alin Gendreau, A-L-I-N-E. Gendreau, Jandreau. Beaulieu, Beaulieu. I was born in Soldier Pond, Maine, or on the birth certificate it says Wallagrass, Maine, on June 17, 1929. In my mother's bedroom, Mrs. Pitjock was the midwife, I was told.
Okay, I'm going to stop tape right now. There's something I see. The camera is speeding and...
How I was born?
Yeah, you said you were born... Just start from scratch. Start from the beginning.
Start from scratch?
Yeah.
Like what my name is in the whole 9 yards?
Yeah.
My name is Alin Beaulieu Gendreau. And I was born in Soldier Pond, Maine. At that time, I believe it's registered as Wallagrass, Maine, in my parents' bedroom. And in attendance was a Mrs. Peter Jacques. She was a midwife. And it was on June 17, 1929. I don't know the time or the day. It was never told. And my mother's name is Annabelle l'Abbé Beaulieu. And my father is Adrien Joseph Beaulieu.
And what is your relationship with the McNair family?
My mother, Annabelle, is a sister to Cécile l'Abbé McNair. They were just the two sisters. They also had a brother, Ulysse, who we have no idea what happened to him. There's no record of that I'm aware of where he's at, where he was, or he was born in 1900.
Okay, I would like to know what it was like growing up with your cousin.
Oh, with my cousin.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I remember so many things. I remember loving to go there because it was full of kids, and was always playing somewhere in the barn or in the yard somewhere, and especially in the schoolyard. There was always something happening in there. And I remember going there on the train because my father worked for the railroad as well as Mononc, so we had free access to the train. So they put me on the train at night. I think that train probably went by about 4 o'clock. And I'd end up in Eagle Lake, and I'd spend the night there, and the next morning they'd ship me back home.
So what did your father do on the...
He was a station agent at that time, when I was born.
Okay, go ahead.
And my mother was postmaster. She became postmaster in 1927. That was the year my brother was born. My brother was born in January, and she took the post office there in November 1927.
Okay, now who were the cousins that you hung out with the most?
Oh, well, it was Marie-Paul and Jackie. I remember it was mostly Marie-Paul, I think, because when she would come home, I remember we'd go to bed at night, and we had to tell each other stories. It was made-up things we'd tell. And eventually we'd fall asleep on these stories we would be telling each other. I remember that vividly, being in bed together and telling stories, wild stories about I don't know what.
What were your early school years like here in Soldier Pond, and how did you find what you talking about?
Well, in Soldier Pond, I don't remember much. I remember going into that school. The school, it was a big building. It had 2 floors, and I remember Miss Jacques was one of the teachers there. And, I remember she had a boyfriend. What was I forgot his name, Bouchard, Jerry Bouchard. And when we played Madame et Madame, they played house or whatever, there was always someone that was going to be Ladette Jacques and the Miss Jacques, or the other one was going to be Jerry, because he was a handsome thing, and he hung around the school quite a bit, I think. And I don't think I did more than 1 year there. Then I went to convent at Santa Gat for the first grade.
Now, you didn't become a nun. So what did you think Mary Paul becoming a nun?
Oh, well, that was okay. I mean, she was nun material. She was, I mean, what I knew of her, not growing up as kids, no. Never in that, I never experienced that, or I never saw that in her. But when we went to Sabattis, I could see it in her. That was her last year. As she was a senior the year I went in as a junior. And she definitely was she was a nice girl.
I'd like to hear about your experiences with the nuns in Santa Gat as opposed to when you went to Lewiston. We hear interesting stories from young Dot and Jackie about what that was like. Not very pleasant experience for us.
No.
Tell us about that.
Well, the ones in Santa Gat, listen, I was young. And I remember, that's one thing I remember, my father was the one that took me to school. My mother never came with us. Because of that. Anyway, the first time I went there, I had a carriage and a doll. I remember that, when I went in there. And I don't know if I was able to keep that with me or if that was just something to bribe me to get there. And I was always afraid of the nuns. I remember my mother saying when they come to visit us on weekends, they could visit us on Sundays, that my hands were always sweaty. I don't know if that was nerves or what, but it could have been. I mean, there was a regimen. I mean, you got up in the morning, you washed, I don't know how good that was, and then you went to church. And I don't know what we did between church and breakfast, and then another thing, everybody had to help clean the place up. We all had little chores. Somebody dusted this, and somebody did other things. That went on from the time I went there until I was in the 8th grade.
What made you stress out about going to school with the nuns?
What made
you afraid of them?
Oh, they were so strict. I mean, you couldn't. I mean, it was regimented, as I said, as I told some of you people before. Like, if you had to go to the bathroom, you went when it was time to go, or in between, you just had to hold it until it was time to go. There was no in-between thing.
What do you want to I know. Okay, we're going to stop tape.
Oh, I moved
Jackie.
in Lewiston?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I like that in comparison. Am I back on?
You're back on.
Okay. Well, and in Santa Gat, what I experienced more was that the nuns had their favorites. And that was usually the children whose parents had money. And especially in town in Santa Gat, there was a couple of girls that were my age, that parents had stores, and the mother would come into the parlor smelling like, oh, you know what. Those people, the nuns, would just do anything for them. But the other people, like myself, and a lot of others, a lot of orphans that never had parents come in, you weren't treated the same as everybody else. I never liked that. I always thought that was, but I survived that. The only way you survive that is just by accepting it. And I don't feel bad that my parents sent me there. I think it was an effort on my mother's part, especially on her part, to send me there. And there was a reason for that, why we went there. We weren't sent there because we were bad at home. We were sent there because there was things happening at home that she didn't want us aware of.
And what was that?
That was my father's alcoholic problem. It was very serious. And I found out since, my mother never talked about this. This never got that from her. I've got that through letters that I wrote to her from the convent, or none of her letters, but also from Imelda Mitaye, and from a friend that stayed with my mother one year when my father was away to do whatever it is he was doing when he was on these cures. But that happened several times. And I believe that's why we were sent away to school. Really.
Now, could you tell me now? You said your mom was orphaned, which also meant that my grandmother was orphaned as well. And
That's right.
could you tell me the story about how that came to be?
Well, their father died in the woods in Michigan when he was 36. And the mother, Mère Josephine, died when she was 42 of tuberculosis. Now, the kids, after
Oh, what did he die of in Michigan?
an accident, an accident in the woods.
And what was the accident?
I don't know. I was never told. I know it was in the woods.
What was told to me was that he was killed by a branch that fell from a tree that was being
Alive.
cut down.
Yeah, possibly. Now, after he died, according to the letters I have here, she went back to school or something, because the 3 kids, were at that convent in Wallagrass. Because there are letters and cards that she would send to the kids, that she missed them. And I don't know why they stayed there, but apparently she was teaching outside of the home. She was away somewhere. But when she died, she was at home at that house off Route 11, across from where Silvio Fournier lived. The house is still there today. I met the gentleman that lives in there one time. His name I've forgotten, but he told me I could go in there if I wanted to visit it. Never did.
Why did you leave St. Agatha and then ended up in Lewiston?
Oh my God.
What that experience was like?
Oh, okay. Well, that summer when after 8th grade, I didn't want to go back there. You know, I got a little older, and I was gotten strong enough to express my feelings about the convent to my parents. Before that, you never said, I don't want to go there. So that summer, my mother was in the hospital. She had had hysterectomy and was quite sick. I don't know how long she stayed in the hospital. But Bert and Imelda Mitaye would come every summer to visit us from Connecticut. And they were there that summer, and somehow or other, I ended up with them for 2 years as a freshman and a sophomore in Bristol, Connecticut. And then I stayed there with them for those 2 full years. And apparently the next summer I came back to Soldier Pond with them. And then that's when Matan Cecil or somebody had found this convent in Sabattis. And, the 2 girls were going. Mighty Paul and Jackie were going there. Well, so there I go. Here I'm going. And I don't remember much about the uniforms we wore there. I have pictures somewhere. However, I remember the ride on the train from Soldier Pond and Eagle Lake or wherever we ended up in Lewiston at night, took a bus to the road, and then we had to walk up the street up to the school. And of course the nuns kiss you. Those nuns kiss you on both cheeks, which was okay. But they were, in comparison to the other nuns, they were nice. Most of them. I mean, they were strict too. I mean, everything was regimented there as well. But I think because I was older, it was easier for me to accept what they were forcing me or making me do for them. And we had, I thought the food was excellent. And we had more food than you could eat. And they served it like as they do in France, by, I can't say it now, the salad and the entree, and then, it was never all served at once. The veggies and everything, it was separated. And then on weekends, the only 3 people left there was Mighty Paw, Jackie, and I. The rest of them all went home on weekends. And that was kind of fun, because then the younger nuns would play hide and seek with us in the barn. Now, I don't know if your sisters have said that, but I remember that. I remember playing in the barn there was one young nun. She had a tooth missing in the front here, but she was fun. I think she was my shorthand teacher. I can't remember her name, but anyway. And then, if we had permission from my parents, we could go downtown. We could go to Lewiston on Saturday, and we always had some money because our parents always made sure the nuns had some money for us to spend. And I remember we used to go to Sam's sandwich shop and buy a Subway. Well, it's Subway today, but a big sandwich for $1, and we'd bring that back and hide that under our beds. That smelled so good compared to them. But I don't have any misgivings about the nuns there. I know I had a hard time with my French because I wasn't, and I think I had a hard time. That's another thing too that nobody ever found out about me, is that I think I'm dyslexic. I can't even say the word, see? Reading, that was another thing, the nuns. If you didn't read fluently and beautifully, I mean, you probably read 2 sentences and then, okay, the next gal, and she probably read the whole chapter. I was never able to read comfortably in front of a class. I always had a hard time there.
Can you describe what it was like to go to the McNair family in Eagle Lake? Some of us recall your father being a storyteller, playing the violin, did he?
Yes, he played the violin and he played the saxophone. And he's one of those that would do recitations. I mean, had a good brain, nice brain, memory, and he would recite all these poems or what have you, and sing. He had a beautiful voice. I remember he used to sing "O Holy Night" at midnight mass. I mean, that was always special to me. And he played the violin. He was a very smart man, and it's sad that he had to let that go by the wayside.
Now, what did he do for them?
He was station agent
Okay,
for the railroad.
This was okay.
For the railroad.
Just want to make sure that.
Yep. And my mother was postmaster for 40 years. I mean, she took that in 1927, and I think she retired in 68.
Now, she was known to us as the mitten aunt. Now, was she also, and there's a reason why.
The what?
The mitten aunt.
Oh, the mitten aunt. Oh, she used to make mittens.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yes. And your mother did, too. I mean, your grandmother. Matanza Sid, I remember going there. Matanza Sid would be talking. Well, they always talked about a minute. And she would be making, like when you make a stocking and when you round out the heel, she could do that talking a mile a minute without even batting an eyelash and not even looking at it. I was always amazed at that, how they did that. But I don't remember my mother doing stockings, but I remember her doing mittens, yes.
There are a number of stories at my house about your mother, how one a great talker she was, and a card player, and a jokester, and sometimes played with my father, and they had little shady deals.
Yes, they did. And your mother did too?
Can I hear about this?
Well, my mother's Charlemagne, and they would knock on the table, and that meant they had a card for them to come back to. And Matanza Sid, of course, was always very quiet and very holy, like she wouldn't cheat. I played with her once, and I know she did, because my mother had cheated the game before, and that second, and I know it wasn't intentional because she was winking at me, and that was so funny because my mother never caught on. She was too busy doing her thing. Well, yes, and she used to love to play with your Uncle Frank. Was it Frank? Yeah, because he was just like her. And so was Harold's dad. I mean, when he came up, and if she was around, they would play together and cheat. I mean, cheat like fun cheat. They weren't doing it for money.
What was this about shady deals?
Well, the cheating.
Oh, the cheating.
I didn't want to use the word at that time.
Well, they were kind of.
They were.
They were having fun. My mother was a type that liked to have fun and to laugh, and I think she had.
She needed to.
She did, and I think when she got to be alone, she did a lot of that. I mean, she could relax. She was more relaxed.
Did your family ever go on picnics at the lake with the McNeil family?
Oh yes.
We recall a lot of picnics in our family,
Yeah.
bringing a big canoe.
And that big boat. I remember once being caught on the lake in that big boat. Oh, I was sitting right in the bottom somewhere. It must have been an army of us in that boat. Probably only took 4 people. There was probably 24. And there was a motor on that, I think. And I remember it was a storm coming, or it was very rough. And that's all I remember. But I do remember we used to go on the side of the lake on picnics. And I used to love to go there, and then upstairs, you know, there was that big upstairs room where the boys used to sleep. We used to play there, do something there, because we were never allowed in the living room with the old people, because you know they had to talk about nice other things. And I remember we used to play in the kitchen, and your mother, my tante, always had umpteen loaves of bread on the sink that had just been brought out on the counter. That just been brought out of the oven. Can you imagine? I don't know what we did, if we ate them, or do you remember? Did we eat them? We must have eaten it.
I'd like to know hear about stories of you and your brother, because Dan now is also close to some members of our family, and if you had any special relationships with other members of the McNeil family in later years.
In later years? Well, you know, we all sort of grew apart. I mean, after I got married, I moved away, and you know, you're busy bringing up a family and I was visiting my mother on weekends because she was alone then. I remember Armando coming to our house once with his wife. I remember they were sitting on the couch, and they didn't have any children with them. But I remember him visiting with us and telling us about his experience at that college they went to. It wasn't a college, but they went to high school and in Biddeford, that Bernard was boss. and he, of course, he was younger, I think, than Bernard. He must have been. And Bernard was boss, and he wasn't all too happy.
What do you mean Bernard was boss? What did he do?
Well, he was boss of the 3 of them. Well, you know, I think I vaguely remember him saying something about, you know, our parents always made sure we had some money in there, some little petty cash if you needed it to buy candy or whatever it is. So Bernard made himself like in charge, more or less. I mean that's what he expressed, and I don't think he was, you know, mad about that whole situation. But I remember once he was telling us that. Alma was very quiet type, never spoke much.
Now you were telling me earlier that you were close to Mary Paul as well as Jackie.
Yeah.
And so what were some of your experiences with Jackie?
Well, Jackie, after I left the convent, they closed that convent when I left. I mean, that was enough. Poor Jackie, she had it bad. But after that, we lost track of each other. And at one time, we did visit her in Boston. She was going to college then. And she had a little apartment somewhere. I think it was by the 5th floor up or something. We didn't see much of her. We haven't really kept that much in touch with each other, except a couple of times we stopped there. We visited with them after she, you know, had her family. In Washington one time, we spent New Year's Eve with them, which was very nice. We had a great time in there. And then I really didn't keep, Leopold I did because he was priest in Caribou, so we kept in touch with them more. It was closer. And then we had Harold that landed in Limestone. Of course, he was almost like an orphan there, poor thing. And we got close to Harold from Limestone and have stayed friends. Of course, we're friends with everybody. But
Do you remember any of your early childhood experiences with Jackie before going to convent? Or is that when you got to know her?
well, that's when I got to know her. As kids, we would go there and we'd play with everybody. I mean, everybody was, it wasn't just one particular person. But I remember Jackie used to come home too, like Mary Paul did, you know, on the train. we'd travel back and forth on the train and visit each other. I know Jackie did too, but what we did, I mean, we'd probably just play dolls or whatever it was we were doing.
What were the high school dances like out here?
High school dances?
Yeah.
Where?
Out here. When you guys, did you guys all go together out here? Or were you guys separated?
Oh, we never had high school dances.
Oh, really?
No.
No?
I mean, no. There was no school. There were no dances at the convent. You mean at Sabatis?
Yeah, no, when you came back out here.
Oh, when I came back here.
Yeah.
Oh, when I came back, like to Soldier Pond.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, there were dances. Well, we used to go. We used to go to Eagle Lake. There was some places at Eagle Lake. Oh God, heavens forbid. Wait, let me. Para. Yeah, you're right. We used to go there, and there was one in Plaisted, Marnie's in Plaisted. That's where I didn't meet him there. And then I met Robert at a barn dance in Fort Kent.
And what was that like? How did you meet him at the barn dance?
Oh, just dance. Oh, that was in the summer. I graduated in 47, by the way, high school. And that summer, I wanted to stay in Lewiston, to go to work, and to go to, there was a junior college in Auburn, and I wanted to go there. But I'd been away all these years. No, you're going to stay here. Well, Soldier Pond, what do you stay there for, right? So anyway, in the summer, I don't know that I worked that summer. Or maybe if I did. And then that fall, I had gone to a barn dance with friends of ours from Soldier Pond, and Robert was there, and he was a good dancer, and we danced. And he wanted to take me home. No, I think that time I was with my brother.
Silver Dollar.
Oh, Silver Dollar. It was at the Silver Dollar. He wanted to take me home. Well, heaven forbid. Just come out of the convent. No boy takes you home. So I was there with my brother. And my brother took me home, which was fine. I didn't mind that. As long as we went to dances. I used to love to go dancing. But we never had, I remember the first date my mother arranged for me, it was with Willis Stoddy. Oh my God, heaven forbid.
Now, this date was arranged.
My mother, oh yes. My mother, well, this Willis was my age, and when we lived across the bridge, he used to live across the road from us. And all of a sudden she says, Willis is going to take you to a dance. Well, I didn't have to go with my brother. But he was one of those pumpers. You know, your hand pumps up and down, up and down, up and down. Well, while you're dancing.
Oh, okay.
Well, it wasn't, my first date. My last one with him.
Too much pumping, huh?
Oh my God. No, there wasn't. It was my mother's choice.
I've never heard that term before.
Well, he goes like this, oh my God.
Show me that again. Someone's being a pumper. Okay.
Oh,
and
heavens.
so swing dancing was the scene then, right?
Oh yes. Now my brother played the piano. Well, he played the piano like nobody's business. I mean, he was a natural. And sometimes on Sundays when my parents were gone, we'd round up some girls. Never boys. Boys never danced then. And we'd jitterbug on the living room floor on, linoleum. We would jitterbug, but never with boys, because there's no boys in Soldier Pond that danced, except for the pumper. We never invited him. No.
Over the years, and especially in later years, our family feels that you're really part of our family.
Oh, I know it. It's nice.
And we'd want to like to hear your side of that.
Well, I feel grateful that you do, really. Because I have no family.
Except with us.
Which is good. Well, I shouldn't say I have no family. I have a husband and 3 children and grandkids, but no siblings.
I'm going to stop the tape for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is a Nick Nair thing,
It
Rowan.
doesn't matter. It's okay. All right, tell us the story.
Okay. Well, anyway, in the summer we used to go to dances. And this time we had gone. This is the time I went to the barn dance. Okay, the second time I met Robert at the barn dance. So this time, well, the second time I meet him, maybe it was a year later, and there were three of us girls from Soldier Pond. I always had my father's car. And after the dance, Robert said, "Why don't you come out to eat with us in Clare?" Well, I said, "I can't do that." Because one of the girlfriends I had with me, we had dropped at the corner of Route 11 because her boyfriend, who the mother detested, was picking her up there. And he was going to bring her back there at a certain time. He was going to bring her back in Fort Kent, no, in front of the bowling alley after a certain time to meet us. Okay. Well, anyway, when Robert asked that, and then they wanted to take my other friend, Dora Jean, I couldn't name them, Dora Jean. So Dora Jean and I decided, okay, we're going to Clare with these two guys. They were going to buy us lunch. The heck. So we went. But then when we come back, of course you're young and you're crazy, and come back to the car, the car was parked in front of the bowling alley where this other Dora Jean's sister was supposed to meet us after the dance. And it was, I think, a couple hours later than we were supposed to be there. And she was panicking in the back seat of that car. She was scared right to death that we wouldn't be coming back to the car. She was afraid her mother would find out where she had been. But she didn't. We took her home. We used to do that all the time with those two, because the mother did not like her boyfriend, and we'd take her to the road, to the end of the road. That was nice. She never married him, by the way. Married another guy. Oh, bad things we did.
All bad things? Like what bad things?
No, we didn't do bad things. No, we really didn't. We didn't know what bad was.
Well, what did you think was the baddest thing you ever did?
Oh, racing on the road to, what road is that? Going from the Sporting Club to Frenchville, between Sporting Club and Frenchville. We'd been to a dance at Sporting Club, and there was this girlfriend of mine, Pelletier. They had a big farmhouse up there, and we'd always gather there because they had a big piano, and we'd dance and sing, and never drank. Nobody ever drank, and nobody ever smoked. But we would just go there. And that night there was some boys coming, following us, and they wanted to pass. And they didn't pass. I stayed ahead of them. That was scary. I think of that today. My kids did that. I don't know what I'd do to them. You know, little things like this. What else did we do that were wrong? I mean, of course, the nuns sent us to confession every Saturday. Oh, that was, I mean, talk about being depressed or whatever. You'd have to go tell your sins, okay? You have to remember how many times. And if you forgot one, that was a sin if you forgot one. And then you go into that confessional, and that priest would reek of smoke, you know, like cigar smoke. And there you are. You've got your 5 fingers, and you're holding one, and you're so nervous about telling this, and then you're thinking, oh, my God, 5 times? Maybe I did it 6 times. I'm not sure. Well, I'm going to say 5. And you go right down the line, and there you go. And the priest, and then you come out of there, and you think, oh, my God, and I said only 5, and it could have been 7. So there I am, a bigger sin on top of what I left there.
What was the biggest sin that you ever had to confess?
Oh, talking back to the nuns. You know, like not talking, no, bad thoughts. My bad thoughts I didn't like them.
Also, really?
It's not that I didn't like them. I think I was scared of them. I didn't understand them. You know, when you're younger, you don't understand what they want from you. As you get older, you understand more. But when you don't understand what it is they want, you just don't like that situation. And most of my things were bad thoughts of that, or talking out of line. When you're going in from one room to the other, you're not supposed to talk. You're not supposed to smile or.
This is the school that you're at.
Yes.
It was that rigid at school.
Oh, it was so rigid. It was very, very. Now, the first year I was there, I don't know if I think I told that to somebody the other day. The first year I was there the first winter. I had the long johns. Remember I said we wear long johns? Well, anyway, that was my first experience. Well, I had to go to the bathroom. No, you can't go because it's past time and it's not time to go. You know, you'll have to wait until, well, somehow or other, I messed my pants. And I tell you, I didn't pee my pants. I messed my pants. And I remember having like a galvanized tank or can or something in front of me and having to scrub those pants. I remember that. That's one of the things I remember that. But hey, how old was I? Maybe 6 or 7? Nobody told me that I had to go to the bathroom at certain times, but now I do. Now I'm controlled. Complete. If they didn't control anything else, they did. My bladder controlled. Oh, there's so many things. Oh, yes, you didn't know. At Sanagat, back to Sanagat. You know what they did with the young kids that would wet the bed? When I got older, like I was 7th and 8th grade, after Mass, we could come out and go up and help the little kids make their beds and get dressed and wash up and whatever. And the little kids that had wet the bed, they were taken into a shower. Now, the nuns did that. They'd take them into the shower, and I think it was cold shower, we were told. The kids would be screeching in there. I mean, it was horrible. And sometimes when I had one that had wet the bed, I'd make the bed poof right over that. I'd never even, and the nun would come and she'd say, you know, in French, real nice French, did she wet the bed? No. That was another lie I said. And I didn't tell that in confession either. I mean, poor kids. You know, that was horrible. Another thing they did to us at it's all coming back, see, the mind. Lice. Oh, I had lice until I was a freshman. Every year, every time I come home on a holiday, my mother had to use, they used to call it larkspur, to wash your hair and to get the lice out of there. But the nuns, they were so nice to you, they really liked you. This is why I never liked them. They would be combing your hair in front. There's a big dormitory. You know, there's more than 3 girls there. There's umpteen of them. And you're standing up front there, and she's taking your little comb, she's going down there and going, I mean, oh. And I don't know where, they just loved me. I think I had good grounds in there. That's probably where half my brain went to. But that was the most humiliating thing that they ever could do to you, to anybody. And they did it, and I don't think it bothered them. I think they liked the idea that there you were, you know, with lice in your hair. But the last time I had lice was that summer I came home. My mother was sick. She was in the hospital. But when I went to Amilda's, I remember that. I still had them. Well, she took care of that, had my hair cut short. I haven't seen one since. But that was one thing that was because I don't think they kept us clean enough. Really. That was a bad thing there. So now you know where my brain is. Lice ate it up. So.
Great. Well, I think we got it all.
Good enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I appreciate you doing this. Really, yeah.
I
And
appreciate it.
yeah, and you know the summer when you gather in the summer at the cottage, I always appreciate you calling and asking us to go there, and always have enjoyed that. And I especially used to enjoy Violet, you know, Bernard's housekeeper. She would call here and make sure, she'd say, make sure you come over now. You know, and everybody, Leopold, everybody would call, make sure we've always enjoyed the families. And it was nice to see that the young children, the grandkids and the great-grandkids are enjoying it as well. It shows by that video you gave us.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Camera's rolling.
Okay. Now, I also remember about Sanagat that you had to take your bath, and I don't think we took a bath every week. One week you took a bath, and the next week you took a foot bath, because I remember they had foot pans for your feet. So I don't know what.
This was once a week.
Once a week is a foot bath, The other week, not a shower, not a bath every week now. Every other week. Hello, yes. Remember the lice that were living in my head? But we had to take a bath with our nightgown on. And I don't know how much water we had in there, but I'm sure, and the nightgowns were in the winter, well, it was winter, and it was heavy flannel. And I don't know who dried. Now, you said you did the same when you went there.
Well, I went there a few years after.
Well, I'm not gonna hear you say that. Go ahead, I got 1 minute tip off. Go ahead.
I ended up at Santa Agatha a number of years after Alin did, because I'm 66 and do you mind telling us?
I'm 84.
Huh?
No. And?
And I was in a dormitory, there must have been 20, 30 boys, I guess. Nuns had their little room curtained in. But we were allowed to take baths every week. It was in a tub. And they would give us what you would call a dish towel to wipe, the fine cotton, and with a big safety pin. And we were to wrap ourselves up. We were not to look at ourselves. I don't know how you wash yourself without touching yourself, but you had to wear that to take a bath. Well, Pat Martin, a friend of mine, myself, and a number of boys, we never did wear it. We would take our bath, wash ourselves the same way we did at home, then take the cloth and soak it and wring it and then take it back. You had to. They gave you one when you walked into the tub, and they picked it up when you went out. And some boys got caught by turning in a dry one. I don't know what they did to them, but you.
So you had to cover yourself while
To
you
take
were
a bath.
to take your bath.
That is correct.
You didn't wear your nightgown. Now we had to
No, we
wear a
didn't have
nightgown.
nightgowns.
We had to wear a nightgown, and you take your sleeve out, put your arm